Hello guys, and welcome to my very first restoration or resto mod or resto custom video. This is a 1969 Mercedes 300 SE. 1969, 50 years old this little toy. As you can see, it's had a hard life. I think it's been painted a couple of different colours over that time. But let's have a look about restoring it today. So we've opening boot or trunk lid with some permanent marker on the inside just for decoration. Opening doors with some nice bit of detail on the door card on the inside. On the underside it reads, made in England by Lesney, Matchbox series number 46, Mercedes 300 SE. So I've got three bits here. I've got a drill bit to drill through, which is a 1.6mm drill down through the centre of the rivet. Then to drill out the centre of the rivet using a rivet head removal drill. And then this will take off the flange of the old rivet, releasing the base. And then I have a tap to fit the screws. So now I'm just going to pry it off the base, and to be honest, it would stay on even without screws. But here it pops. A piece to keep the wheels in position, acting like as a little suspension. Pop that off. The interior looks to be in good usable condition. Thankfully the steering wheel is still intact. And then the base plate is clean enough. I know you could really polish these up and electroplate them and etc. But for me, at this early stage in my restoration career, I'm just going to polish it up a little bit with a wire brush. The plastics is held in by, again, another little rivet, which I've just taken the head off of that, and it pops off. And then the windscreen or windshield there, you can see again been slightly modified with some permanent marker. So let's take the boot lid off, and I'm using I tried to use a Novel spray. It's a paint remover. For cars it's a automotive paint, but it didn't actually work out too good for me. I'm in my little area with windows open, but as you can see it did take off a level of paint. A child in the past perhaps had repainted it, but the original paint that was underneath here was very stubborn, and I switched to Nitromors. I've used Nitromors on recently a motorbike petrol tank, and not only did the aftermarket respray come off, but the original paint come off, and I expected this to do the same. Quite nasty stuff, so again made sure that I had plenty of ventilation whilst kind of watching it really bubble up, or at least hoping for it to bubble up. Again, it didn't actually work. This 50-year-old Matchbox paint was solid. Eventually I pulled out my, so there we are, Nitromors, fail. on this occasion. So I pulled out my little hobby tool. I've got plenty of attachments. Some I still need to buy actually, which I've now found out. I started off with the little brass one there. That didn't touch it, so I switched over to that steel, and all the paint, I think it softened, so it easily come off and polished up nicely. It didn't really make too much of a mess, or it didn't put scratches into the metalwork. It cleaned it up quite nicely, so was happy to continue to paint from this point. So now that everything's off, I've at this point decided to tap the posts. The post on the back was very shallow, so I actually switched out. I did have a 4mm screw, but I switched it to a 3mm screw. So here's the trial fit of said screws, and the front at least goes in all the way, goes in nicely. The back need a little extra work. Now that I actually never intended to paint match this car, I wanted to paint it brown, because if I had this car in real life I'd love to have it in brown, but a friend of mine suggested to go with the original blue. Now I've only got a small selection. There's the brown that I wanted to use, but a friend of mine suggested keep it blue, try and keep it as original as possible. So that's what I did with the limited paints that I currently own. So they're all Tamiya acrylic paints. Started off with, I've put this on a ×4 speed, otherwise we'd be here all day. But started off with the majority of the white, and then added a little bit of blue, and then with every little bit of blue that I added, colour matched to that small piece of blue that was still visible on the car. And you'll see that I kept on adding a little bit more, until I was happy that it was there or thereabouts. This of course is a gloss finish. It's not a metallic like the original, but I'm happy with the result. I've got some different things coming that will hopefully enable this a little bit easier process. At the moment I'm using a little glass that I use for whiskey drinking, and I'm using the children's straws. Not ideal, but it did the job eventually. So tidying up as we go. I'm now happy with the colour. Add a little Tamiya acrylic paint X20A thinner, and unfortunately I lost the footage of the liquid surface primer and obviously paint, but it came out pretty good. During the process the boot lid did fall off, so it's currently out of the screen, but of course I painted that alongside it too. So with that to one side, start the process of cleaning up the base. So halfway through you can see that it's starting to come along quite nicely, and in the final, now again I've left some age to it, but I'm quite happy with what I got. Now again I could have just left it like that, but I did buy this liquid chrome pen, and I wanted to use it. So on the front bumper, grille, lights, rear bumper, and also on the wheels, I added this chrome paint. Took all of 10 seconds, and perhaps it looks like it took 10 seconds. I left the underside the same. So put that to one side to dry. The obligatory wife's pink toothbrush. That is actually my wife's toothbrush, so I better put that back soon. So getting to clean up these interior parts, being very careful with the interior, mainly because of the little steering wheel. You know, as a reminder, this is 50 years old, so I just wanted to be very careful. This was annoying, this part, because this was when I really accepted or knew that this was a permanent marker on the windscreen rather than, you know, just some little semi-permanent pen. Now, I used the paint stripper from earlier to take that off, and although it did come off in about 2 seconds, it started to melt, I would say, the plastic, which is now what I'm trying to do is with this polish, try and make it look a bit nicer. It was at this point that I realised that I don't have any buffing wheels for my hobby tool. So for about 5 minutes or so, I tried to polish up the windscreen. I'm not 100% happy with it. There's no cracks or scratches. It's just very dull. Looks okay. Waited overnight for everything to dry. The windscreen there just snaps back into place. I didn't need any additional glue or anything to keep that in position. It just snapped back in. And so did the base. The base just snapped back into position. Wouldn't even need to have screws in the bottom, but of course I put it in. The screwdriver I have there is a little too large. I've put myself some precision screwdrivers in the meantime, so hopefully they'll come soon. So for the next car, it'll be that little bit easier to get these screws in. And I've got big hands, big fingers, so these tiny little screws, they kind of almost give me cramp in the hand. So there's a little reminder of what we started off with and the result. I'm quite happy with this as my first resto mod, resto custom. I say that because of course it is a different colour. I have added the chrome paint, but I'm quite happy with that. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you'll subscribe and look forward to the next one.